My name's Jen Crow, and I am one of your co-senior ministers here at First Universalist Church, and it is such a joy to be together today. So First Universalist Church is a church that is all about love and hope. We've been here for 176 years in Minneapolis in this community, and we are a place that has always held on to a love so big that everyone is included. All of your life experiences, all of your identities are valued here. We want to know you and all about you. Everyone here is whole and holy, valued and worthy. Each of us matters and has something important to offer. So friends, we are a church where we give, receive, and grow together in the universalist spirit of love and hope. We listen deeply to where love is calling us next. We welcome, affirm, and protect the light in each human heart. And we cultivate courage and humility and compassion in service to justice. We do all of this as a faith community deeply committed to racial justice. And when you join with us, this is the life that we invite you into. And it's a really good one, I have to say. So welcome, whether this is your first time with us or you've been joining us for years. And a very special welcome to Dean Magraw, who's joining us as guest musician today. Many of you know him and have heard his music before at church, and it just feels really good to be together again. So I want to let you know about several opportunities to continue to connect after today's service. You can join us for coffee hour right after church. There's also a special meeting at 11:30 for folks who are interested in learning more about our operating budget for the upcoming fiscal year. There are also several opportunities for children and youth and families to gather today. There's senior high youth group, there's Sunday play date for 2nd to 7th graders, there's 8th grade meetup, there's the BIPOC multiracial youth group, music and story time for families with little ones up through 1st grade. All of these are opportunities. You can find the links on our church website. You can also join us throughout the week for gatherings for children and youth and adults, and then again for worship together on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. There are lots of ways and times to connect, and we hope you'll continue to join us throughout the day and throughout the week. So now as we prepare our hearts and minds for this time of renewal and reflection and connection, I want to invite all of us to start by settling our bodies and minds. If you've been joining us, you know how we do this. 3 deep breaths together. So make yourself comfortable in whatever way works for you. For me, it's feet on the floor, it's shoulders rolled up and drop down so my chest is open. And I let my eyes soften. Deep breath in, hold it, and let it out super slow. Full breath in, hold it for a beat, and then exhale so slowly. And then one more deep, full breath in so your belly puffs out. Hold it and let it out super slow. With our bodies settled and our hearts open, we each light our chalices together. If you have one at home, maybe it's a candle or maybe it's just in your mind's eye. Let's take a moment to light our chalice and to let Rosanna and Lamont lead us.
Please join me in the words for the lighting of our chalice. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
I'm Lauren Wyeth, and I'm the Director of Children, Youth, and Family Ministries at First Universalist Church. And as I was talking with Reverend Karen about her message for today, she suggested that maybe I could tell you a story about a portal, or a story that had a portal in it, to kind of get us thinking about what she's going to share later. And so I started thinking about that and all the stories that have portals in them, and I realized there are so many. It's like this huge theme. So like the first one that came to mind for me was Alice going down the rabbit hole. That's the portal that gets her to Wonderland, right? And then the story of the Wizard of Oz, you probably know the portal there. That's the tornado. And there's several others that I came up with. Maybe you know what the portal is in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or maybe you're familiar with the Secrets of Droom series, or the Magic Treehouse series. Anyway, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you probably know about a particularly special kind of portal called a port key. And a port key is an enchanted object where if somebody comes along and touches it, they are immediately transported to a new location. And in those stories, if you touch a port key and you are transported, you're going to feel this tugging feeling from behind your belly button, is how they describe it, as you get sort of dragged along into the new location, and it does not feel great, apparently. Actually, in most of these stories, going through the portal is not a really pleasant experience. It often leaves you feeling pretty exhausted or disoriented, or maybe even with a case of seasickness. So it does not sound that awesome, but still, it seems like people of every age are really, really sort of captivated by this idea of portals, by the number of stories that are out there. At least this seems to be true to me. And so I thought I would come up with a little experiment to figure out if I could demonstrate a portal for you. And I came up with this idea of putting this egg at the top of this tube that's just kind of too small for it to get through, and then putting this impenetrable barrier here and try to figure out a way to get the egg through these things down into this new environment down here, just sort of by magic. And as much as I think about it, I just can't figure out a way to make it work for you. So I'm sorry, let's just think about portals. Wait a minute. The egg has been transported, not in the way that I expected. That was sudden, a little messy, pretty dangerous for the egg, but everything worked out okay. So, you know, I guess I'm gonna say maybe portals are real. Maybe there is something to this idea. Maybe it's just not magic so much as it's a little bit of a awkward, unexpected gesture paired with a little bit of science and imagination. And well, there you go, friends. Portals are possible.
I am feeling so full of gratitude this morning. Grateful that you shared that really fun experiment with us, Lauren, and showed me a way that a portal can show up when I least expect it. And Dean, for your music, which always transports me to another better place in my heart and mind. So thank you both. My heart is full. So we have experienced together a lot of things where all of a sudden there's been change. All of a sudden something that we didn't think was possible is possible. Sometimes that's been good, and sometimes that's been hard in our time together recently. We've had a lot of changes we couldn't see coming, and a life that perhaps we couldn't have even imagined just 2 months ago is where we are now. And I would say that portals are showing up for us in some unpredictable places. So as we prepare to center ourselves for a time of prayer and holding one another's joys and sorrows together, I want to remind you about what for me is an unexpected place where I find a portal for myself. And it's a portal where I go from being, when I enter it, I'm usually crabby and irritated and agitated and worried and bothered. And then when I come out, magically, I am grounded and centered and remembering who I most want to be and trying really hard to act like it. So some of you know that one of the magic portals like this for me is actually the bathroom. The bathroom is my secret place. You can go anytime and nobody asks you about it. You can just head in and you don't always have to use the bathroom. You can use it as a place to center in and to pray if that works for you. For me, I will often escape to the bathroom as my portal, my spiritual portal place, so that I can go and take a couple of deep breaths and say a quick prayer that reminds me that I am not in it all by myself and that there is help available from the universe. Now, parents and probably kids too, and anybody that lives with anybody else, the bathroom is still a great spiritual portal, even in this time of quarantine. Go in there and close the door if you can. Take a couple of deep breaths, say whatever quick prayer or whatever quick meditation works for you, and then you can come out on the other side a little bit more grounded, a little bit more like the person you hope to be in the world. So for me, I head in there and I do my 3 deep breaths, but I do them in a way that I learned when I used to study Kung Fu a long time ago. And part of that is using your hands and your body to help with the breath, almost to imagine yourself as a bellows, like something that fills up and then pushes out. So for me, when I do the deep breath in, I'll breathe in and out. So I'm literally letting the breath in and out. And my prayer is often very, very simple. For me, I use the language of God. For other people, it's spirit of life or universe or whatever is sacred and holy. But I'll go in there, I'll do my 3 deep breaths like this, and then I will say my quick prayer, which is usually, God, be with me. Help me remember I'm not in this alone. Help me remember who I want to be. Super simple. So we're going to enter into a time of a little bit of quiet together before we share our joys and sorrows. And I gave you that example of one way that you could do your quick centering and settling and prayer. So I want to invite you to try that right now. I'm going to do mine. You can join me, or you can do something that works for you. So I'm going to do my breaths in. And then I'm going to share a prayer with us. Spirit of life and love, help us welcome this time of pause, this time to practice settling our bodies and minds so that we can let go of the habits that hurt us and others, so we can allow a new way to open in front of us, either through effort or accident or circumstance. Help us remember that we are not alone as the cycle of life keeps on turning for us all. So today and every day, Our hearts are reaching out to those who suffer and those who mourn, to all those who are struggling. And I want to invite us now to share the sorrows or the struggles that we're carrying in our hearts, to go ahead and add those into the chat box if you'd like, so that we can all know what you're carrying, or to just hold those sorrows and struggles in the silent sanctuary of your heart. We are holding so much right now. I'm grateful for all of us reaching out to one another, for all of us greeting each other with compassion when we struggle, for our open hearts as we hold all of these changes and hardships together. And we know that in these times of sadness and worry, in these times of struggle, that joy abounds too. Sometimes we have to make a little room for it. Sometimes maybe we need to make a portal for it to show up. And sometimes we just need to let ourselves be surprised by it. So let's share together in our joys as well. And we are also really excited to get to celebrate with Lauren Wyeth, who has recently received her credentialing from the Unitarian Universalist Association as a religious educator. And this is a very big deal. This is very similar to what Arif has just gone through as well. When he received his credentialing from the Ministerial Fellowship Committee, Lauren has been studying and working and innovating for years now. And I'm so grateful that the people at the UUA now know what we have always known, which is that she is an amazing religious educator. And we're so, so lucky to have her with us. So we celebrate, and I invite you to celebrate as well. So share with us in the chat box your joys, your surprises, the things that are keeping you going right now. I know I say it all the time, but it's like a waterfall coming in of joy, like rain. It's so wonderful to see the things that are keeping you all going during this time. So just as we share our joys, we also hold together the losses that we've all experienced. And we especially hold Mary Hellman and her family. And we light a candle for Dorothy. And we pray, may the grip of addiction be loosened. May the weight of oppression be lightened. May grief be shared. May joy break through. And may love make every suffering bearable for us all. May it be so. Amen. And let's sing together, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots holding close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me. Come to me.
That was lovely. Good morning, everyone. If you're a kiddo, it'd be great if you could listen to this first part of this sermon. It's all about you, your power, your ability to make things happen. The stay-at-home order. Oops, okay. The stay-at-home order has prompted my five-year-old daughter Aspen, many of you who've seen her run around the church, to create a new fort every single day. These forts are carefully designed to maximize the physical inconvenience of the adults who are charged with supervising her. In the construction of these forts, she cleverly appropriates the most comfortable couch, the much sought after TV tables, the good coffee table, and an assortment of blankets, pillows, and pink plastic toys with a few strategically placed small Lego pieces to inflict maximum pain as we walk past these fortifications when the lights are out for the evening. We watch as if proud parents of an Olympian athlete as our nimble daughter effortlessly maneuvers through these labyrinths in the family room with ease and absolute confidence. Now, while I am curious about what it might be like to enter these fortress portals, fear always consumes me. And I remain on the outside of that entrance, curious but scared. Some days I feel like those late 20th century archaeologists that sought to find the entrance into those tombs of the Egyptian royalty, deep into the pyramids. These archaeological wonders had a discrete number of entrances, each portal a purposeful architectural structure filled with meaning and spiritual symbolism and cosmological importance for the next worldly kingdom. Yet a curious feature of these Egyptian portals was that many of them were false entrances, purposefully designed to obscure where the actual bodies were buried. Like my daughter's forts, these portals were designed to ensure that the paths in and out would be difficult and uncertain. Now, friends, we know that portals are basically doors. Usually, portals are clearly marked entrances that lead us to a particular destination that we are seeking to pass through. 2 months ago, when I went to work every day, I enjoyed passing through the portal of my job at the seminary, knowing that a productive and satisfying day was awaiting me. 2 months ago, I passed through the portals of restaurants and bars where anticipation of a fun evening with friends and colleagues beckoned me with joyful laughter, hugs, and high fives. 2 months ago, I was looking forward to crossing portals into the homes of children that my daughter played with. Now, all of those portals are dangerous, unpredictable, and frightening, like the fort portals my daughter and the Egyptians created. In her latest essay, "The Pandemic is a Portal," from her forthcoming publication, Azadi, Freedom, Fascism, and Fiction, Arundhati Roy writes, and I quote, "Whatever it is, coronavirus has made the mighty kneel and brought the world to a halt like nothing else could. Our minds are still racing back and forth, longing for a return to normality, trying to stitch our future to our past and refusing to acknowledge the rupture. But the rupture exists, and in the midst of this terrible despair, it offers us a chance to rethink the doomsday machine we have built for ourselves. Nothing could be worse than a return to normality. Now, historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next, end quote. While I agree with the brilliant Arundhati Roy, I am not so sure the historical record of the West tells us that we will easily accept her invitation. While this is unwelcome new territory for us, humanity has been here many times before and have written about it. It's become a common observation nowadays that the coronavirus outbreak makes it feel like we're living in a dystopian novel. Even the name, think about it, COVID-19, the blunt two syllables, the hard consonants, the number at the end, makes it straight out of science fiction. It is perhaps no great surprise that readers all over the world are returning by the droves to pandemic literary works to try and make sense of the strange new world we find ourselves in. I too have become obsessed with the history of pandemics, the stories of human behavior, and the contemporary films that parallel our current reality. In the Decameron, Giovanni Boccaccio writes about what happened during the plague that hit Florence in 1348. He says, "Tedious were it to recount how citizen avoided citizen, how among neighbors was scarce found any that shewed fellow feeling for another, how kinfolk held aloof and never met, nay, what is more and scarcely to be believed, fathers and mothers were found to abandon untended, unvisited children left to their own fate." In his book on the 1665 London epidemic, A Journal of the Plague Year, Daniel Defoe reports, and I quote, "This was a time when everyone's private safety lay so near them they had no room to pity the distresses of others, the danger of immediate death to ourselves. Took away all bonds of love, all concern for one another," end quote. When I read these dilemmas about human value and interaction during a pandemic, I was reminded of an ethics exam that I took in seminary, in which I was asked to compare and contrast the difference in making a decision between what is right and what is good. I remember musing to myself, what is the right thing to do in this situation? What is a good thing to do in this situation? In our current reality, world leaders and local officials and corporate CEOs and small business owners and religious leaders and activists and nonprofits and people who run schools and healthcare facilities have all been called on like never before to make decisions that unequivocally impact both individual and community. I have been particularly fascinated to observe how people have responded to these decisions. For example, when people were initially told to shelter in place, the vast majority of individuals were compliant. As time has passed, even through the directive, though the directive hasn't changed, there appears to be fewer people complying. And of course, there are those who from the beginning did not believe anyone had the right to make this type of decision and have been very publicly and very proudly clear about their opinion. Are they right or good? At this moment in the pandemic journey that we're on, what decisions are we making based on the decisions that others have made, such as shelter in place? Are we still compliant? Have we moderated as time has gone on to fit more with what works best for us? Or have we decided we're going to do as we wish, regardless of what anyone else tells us? What tools do we use to make decisions? Is it metrics, a frame even just our gut? Are you asking yourself what is right, what is good? What role does your faith, your class status, your education, your beliefs have on your decision-making process? As we see the red dots on the maps of our country and the world multiply, we realize that there is nowhere left to escape to. We can ignore those who this country does not care about, people of color who are dying at disproportionate rates, immigrants in detention centers, old people in nursing homes, and people in prisons where the virus is taken over. What is right and what is good is a daily conundrum. We do not even need our imagination to start fearing the worst. We watch videos of convoys of big black army trucks carrying dead bodies from small towns to nearby crematories as if we were watching our own funeral processions. The terror we are feeling excludes imagination and individuality, and it reveals how unexpectedly similar our fragile lives and shared humanity really are. Fear, like the thought of dying, makes us feel alone. But the recognition that we are all experiencing a similar anguish can draw us out of our loneliness. The knowledge that the whole of humanity, from Thailand to New York, shares our anxieties about what is good and right. And it binds us as one human community. Just asking that question binds us as humanity. When we explore the right and the good of how and where to use a face mask, the safest way to deal with food we have bought from the grocery store, and whether to self-quarantine is a constant reminder that we are not alone. These silent considerations we make about right and good provides us with an unsettling but needed sense of solidarity. We are no longer mortified by our fear. We discover a humility in that. The humility in fear can encourage us to have mutual understanding. When I watch the television images of people waiting in Central Park to get tested, hospitals that have extended to parks, I can see that my terror is shared by the rest of humanity. And I do not feel alone. In time, I feel less ashamed of my fear. In fact, increasingly come to see it as a perfectly sensible response. Fear elicits two responses. Sometimes it causes us to withdraw towards solitude and silence. But other times it teaches us to be humble and verbal and loud and to practice solidarity in new ways. What is right and what is good? I'm reminded also that there's an old adage about pandemics and plagues, and that those who are afraid often live longer. As Catherine Ann Porter's short novel, Pale Horse, Pale Rider opens, a book that I read in high school, I haven't thought about until just this past week. And many of you may have read it at that time too. Miranda fitfully endures a vivid nightmare. That's when you open the book, it starts. She sees herself on horseback, desperately racing from death. The pale rider who has already taken her grandfather and aunt, a cousin, her decrepit hound, and her silver kitten. And when she reaches her, she realizes that he is no stranger to her. Her nightmare tangles images of life and death with images of remembering and forgetting. And the relationship between survival and memory is a recurring motif in this whole story. Really worth reading again. Porter's allusion to the apocalyptic horseman described in Revelations, that's in the Bible, proves to be appropriate because the story takes place during the influenza pandemic of 1918, which was the greatest public health catastrophe in modern history until now. The interplay between death and memory in Pale Horse, Pale Rider gives an aesthetic dimension to the pandemic's horrifying consequences, and it raises questions for us today, friends. In October of 1918, a delirious and fearful Catherine Ann Porter experienced what she termed the beatific vision, close to death from the novel influenza that killed 50 to 100 million people. Porter felt transported to a paradisal landscape, one free of the pain and fear that had overtaken her body. To the surprise of all, she survived that illness and later transformed the experience into this powerful book, Pale Horse, Pale Rider. That story is one of the few literary works directly about the pandemic that killed more people in the United States and that we've lost in any wars in the 20th and 21st century combined. The experience, Porter said, simply divided my life, and after I was in some strange way altered, it took me a long time to go out and live in the world again, she says. Friends, COVID-19 promises to alter us all in strange ways. It's a paradigm-shifting event that divides lives and cultures into a before and an after. We will emerge changed, though how those changes will manifest is far from certain. The sensory details of this outbreak, the masks, the faces, the doctors, the nurses, all their faces, as you look at them, are creased with worry and fatigue. The closure signs, the antiseptic smells everywhere, the empty streets, the stacks of coffins in Black communities will weave their way into our minds and bodies, triggering us back to this moment years into the future, reminding us of the portal that we went through. Arundhati Roy reminds us that we have a choice to make as a community of humans around the world. We have a choice to find our way through this portal of fear and injustice and humiliation and genocide. But she warns us that when we do come through this, on the other side, that it matters. And she says to us, we can choose to walk through it, dragging the carcasses of our prejudice and hatred, our avarice and our databanks and dead ideas, our dead rivers and our smoky skies behind us. Or we can walk through that portal lightly with little luggage, ready to imagine another world and ready to fight for it. What will it be like when you walk through that portal, walk through that tomb, or walk through that unexpected fort in your family room? Blessed be and amen. And now we are going to have the offering. And today's offering is a 50-50 split between the church and the Ministerial Emergency Fund, which is a very important fund that we are utilizing these days to make sure that we're able to reach out and help everyone in our community. As you can see right there, there's a list of all the ways that you can give. You can text to give, you can Square Cash, you can go to our website, and you can do the old-fashioned boomer thing. You can write a check and send it in the mail with a little stamp on it. So those are your options for giving, and we thank you for your generosity so that we can continue to build up the community and the life of this church. And now we're going to hear from old Dino. He's going to rock it out a little bit here.
Thank you. Beautiful sermon, Karen. Thank you very much for that. Now, here's a chance if you want to get up and do a little dance. Or, as Jen says, you can just dance in the sanctuary of your heart. I have to press this button.
So beautiful. Thank you for the inspiring words, Karen. Thanks for the beautiful music, Dean. Thanks for the story experiment, Lauren, that is going to stick with me. So friends, I want to remind you that there are many opportunities to connect with each other today and throughout the week. So please stay on and join us for coffee hour right after the service. Please come to the budget meeting if you have questions or interest in our operating budget for the next fiscal year. That happens at 11:30. Please join us for the variety of opportunities to connect for children, youth, families, adults that are happening today and throughout the week. And an especially important reminder for all of us, we are here for each other during these times. So again, if you are not receiving emails from us, if you're not getting the liberal, please let us know so that we can be sure to be connected with you. And also if you are struggling in some way, your ministers and staff are here for you. We want to know what's going on so that we can be helpful and supportive with you in this time. So don't forget, worship on Wednesday at 7 o'clock, and we'll head back to Karen for our closing words.
From T.S. Eliot, what we call a beginning is often the end. And so make an end is to make a beginning. The end is where we start from. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the very first time. And now, Franco will lead us as we hold our hands up and reach out to one another as we prepare to go now in peace.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
We invite you to extinguish your chalice. Remember the community that has lit this space up in your home today, and it will continue to carry the light of the chalice with you throughout the week. Blessed be. Amen.